Well. Would you check the time? It looks like another year has passed and you still haven't done it. When are you going to realize that each time that you put the thing that you want to do off, it makes it that much harder? Next time you do it, it's that much heavier. It's this much more of resistance against your mind each year you put it off. The reason that it's getting heavier and heavier and harder the more you put it off is because you're failing to build psychological momentum. Psychological momentum is a key role in success in behavior. It's conceptualized as a perceptual phenomenon that changes human behavior and performance. It is experienced as a psychological force in which several factors or qualities converge in a synergetic way to enable one to perform at a level not ordinarily possible. You see, with psychological momentum, what you can do is much more than what you may have been able to do without the momentum. There's several key factors that build, such as confidence, self-esteem, and proving to yourself that you are capable. You see, in the root word of momentum is moment. When you gain small wins in the moment, it builds your confidence and increases your chance of performing better the next time. When we gaze into the world of sports, we can see psychological momentum time and time again, most notably in the NCAA March Madness tournament. And I want to highlight the 2022 Elite run by St. Peter's. For you guys that were a witness to that, wow, it was quite the story. You see, St. Peter's came in as a 15 seed. And no 15 seed had ever went to the Elite Eight. And they started out playing the University of Kentucky. And they ended up winning that game. And then they went along to play Murray State. You know exactly what they thought? I wasn't there in the locker room, but I can surely assume that the coach was like, hey, we just beat Kentucky. We just beat the number 2 ranked team in our bracket. So if we can beat Kentucky, we can beat Murray State. And they went along to beat Murray State. And in the next game after that, my personal favorite, they knocked off Purdue. Yes, I'm an Indiana University alumni. So I have a little bias in there. But they went on to beat Purdue. And Purdue was a Final Four favorite that year. They shocked the world. They are the first 15 seed to ever reach the Elite Eight. They went on to lose against eventual national champion runner-up North Carolina. I knew that. I don't know why. I just blinked. But they put on a phenomenal run. And that's exactly what these Cinderella stories run off of. Psychological momentum. Each moment, each play, they prove to themselves that they can play. They get those little wins to boost and give them the confidence so they can just simply jog through things that would cause them to run in terror. Things that once caused you to crawl on the ground and limp. You can just walk through. You know, when you're younger, your parents get the chores done so quick and so fast, and you're not as fast at it. Why is that? You haven't built the psychological momentum. You have to prove to yourself that you're capable. St. Peter's proved to themselves and the world that they belonged when they upset Kentucky. And they went along to beat Murray State and went along to beat Purdue. They prove that they belong. You have to prove to yourself that you belong sometimes. Your mind can be your own worst enemy. Your mind can feed you lies and tell you, hey, I don't belong. I'm just a 15 seed. No 15 seed has ever went to the Elite Eight. That's what the world tells you. That's what's on the outside. What's on the inside is the Spirit. Once you begin to walk in the Spirit and listen to what God tells you, you see God is infinite. And when the Spirit of God is dwelling within you, there's infinite possibilities. Why do you think that St. Peter's built that psychological momentum to get them to the Elite Eight? It's because high stakes. High stakes. They realize where they are, where they were. They realize that this game against Purdue, hey, if we win this, we're going to be the first team to prove the world wrong, that we can be a 15 seed in the Elite Eight. So the stakes were high. So they didn't just win the game and then forget about it. They chose to use it. So you have to choose to use your victories. You have to choose to use your victories. You have to choose to use them. So what does psychological momentum look like in our day-to-day lives? It might look different for you. For one person, it might be, hold on, let's get rid of this real quick. For one person, it might be a workout. For another, it might be homework or even chores. These are things that you can do throughout your day to count them as victories. And you don't just want to just do them blindly walking throughout your day. So we do not want to be blind. We do not want to be blind, but we want to do what? We want to choose to use our victories. And plant that in your mind. Hey, I just busted out a quick workout. I can go home and write. I can go home and work on some music. I can go home and do X, Y, Z. I can go home and rearrange my house. I can go home and start. The limits are yours. If this video is for you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Choose to use our victories. Now, this momentum can be short term, but it's most definitely huge in the long term. Our life is a result of our habits. These habits can literally change the brain, and they can change so quick. For instance, the first time you go on a run, you deal with this intense psychological blockage. You don't want to do it. You see, the first time you run, the resistance is at an all-time high. Your resistance is at an all-time high because you've never ran before, or you might have ran a long time ago, was in school. You're 300, 400 pounds now. You can barely walk. What's a run going to look like? Your resistance is so high that it will try to keep you from doing it. This is your flesh. And your flesh contradicts your spirit. Your flesh contradicts your spirit, and your flesh uses this resistance to try to keep you safe, to try to keep you from growth, and to keep you from God. If you listen to resistance, you are going away from God. So the first time you have to push through that resistance. The only way that you can reach a point where you gain psychological momentum is you have to push through this resistance. Anything is hard. Picking up a pencil for the first time when you're a kid, you have to focus on how you draw. Things take time. The thing that once gave you resistance, once you start making this a habit, it starts to become second nature. and it begins to be rewarding. You no longer have to battle yourself to get up and get on your running shoes and go outside and go out the door. You already have made up your mind that you are now someone who runs, and your brain recognizes that. So that's what we call an identity shift. Your habits become second nature and rewarding, and this equals an identity shift. You now become someone who does hard things. You're now someone who runs. Now, that's not your whole identity, but it's a part of your character. You are now someone that runs, and your brain recognizes that, and you will continue to do this, and you will continue to build momentum. Now I'm going to explain to you the neuroscience behind what we've discussed. The brain forms habits through no other way other than repetition. Repetition equals habits. Creating stronger neural pathways that shift control from conscious to automatic. And if you want to know the exact parts, it comes from the conscious prefrontal cortex to the automatic basal ganglia. So it goes from the conscious part of your brain where you have to consciously do it. You have to consciously put your running shoes on. You have to consciously open the door. You have to consciously just get yourself moving to the point to where you come home and you're in a flow state. It gets you in a flow state. From flesh to flow. It gets you to the point where you can flow. And then when you're no longer consciously thinking about what you're resistant to, you begin to flow. And when you're in a flow state, you begin to think and live more freely. Freely. You're in the Spirit. You're walking in the Spirit. You're walking with God. You're no longer fighting yourself to do it, but you are in complete submission. And you are doing the thing. Now I have an example with guitar. When you first start playing guitar, you don't know how to hold the instrument. And you get calluses, and you don't know chords or anything. You don't know anything. You know nothing. When you first start guitar, you don't know how to hold the instrument. You get calluses on your fingers hurt. You know nothing at all. You can't even play a comprehensible piece of music. You just have this jankety old thing with the strings, and you look so awkward. You don't know how to hold it. You don't know how to pick it up. This is when it's in your conscious. Your conscious prefrontal cortex. You have to consciously pick up the guitar. You got to consciously look at and sometimes pick up your fingers with your other hand and put them on the chord just to play it. You might need a metronome. You have to do this automatically. That's no way that you can make music. That's no way that you can flow. There is no flow here. There is no music here. This is just your dumb monkey self trying to pick up something that's spiritual. You don't know what you're doing. But something magical happens. Something special happens when you start to build that psychological momentum. You think you can. You know you can. Because if you didn't have momentum, if you did not have confidence in yourself, and you did not see the brighter future ahead, you see the future is bright. And you have to look at the future sometimes. and see, the future's bright. I might not be able to see it. I might be blinded by it, but the future is bright. And I see myself making music, I'm daydreaming about making music and being on stage with all these people out here. I see great things coming ahead. See, believe in yourself. You take a step and you build momentum. And eventually, you do not have to think about how to hold it. The calluses are already there, so it doesn't hurt anymore. You already know the chords, and you move your fingers perfectly because you have built upon repetition and repetition and repetition. Your brain has rewired to know exactly where to go to form a certain sound. It's a beautiful thing. It's now in your basal ganglia. It's now in your subconscious. You subconsciously do this, and you can start to sing. I mean, this is phenomenal. When you first start playing, you're like, how do people sing and do this? Or when you first start driving a car, you're like, how do people even take their eyes off the road? This is so. But you have to look at the bright future, build momentum, and maintain that vision of yourself. The vision. The vision matters. Vision matters. Build momentum, vision matters. You see, this is your monkey self up here. You don't know what you're doing. You're confused. But you gotta keep to the vision. You gotta keep going to the drawing board. It is so, so important to continue to be disciplined on yourself in learning and building these habits so they can go from your conscious to your subconscious. So you can work, you can build stamina. And you might have heard the term never miss twice. Never miss twice. The reason you hear this so much, or you may have never heard it before, this might be your first time hearing it. Never ever miss twice. Your goal is to make music, learn guitar, play that guitar at least 1 minute. Not even a minute. At least pick it up every day. Because there's a quote, the heaviest weight in the gym is the front door. Getting your foot in. Just get in there. There's power in starting. When you're starting, that signals to your brain something. That's a cue. It's like, all right, we're doing the thing. It might not be guitar. It might be writing. It might be XYZ for you. It might be going to the gym. It might be changing into your gym outfit. Boom. Never, ever miss twice. You miss one day. Okay, working out. I understand the rest days. But never, ever miss twice. But the reason being is it's so hard to keep that momentum going. As soon as you break that momentum, it almost goes down to ground zero. It almost goes down to ground zero. Because I have a story from my workplace. You see, we usually work 8-hour days. But for the holidays, we were off nearly a week. And we just returned to work the other day, 2 days ago actually. We just returned to work and the guys wanted to leave early. That doesn't make sense. You had a whole week off. Does that mean that you need money? Don't you need money? I mean, why would you leave early? And if you've been paying close attention to this video, I'm sure you know that psychological momentum, a whole week off, that's more than missing twice. So your 8-hour day is going to feel a lot harder mentally to get through, especially when you're a carpenter. Especially when you're a carpenter doing manual work, unloading a whole entire truck. If you did 8-hour days every single day, it would have just been simple. It would have been a flow. Like, all right, my 8 hours. It would have been natural. But when you're used to being at home, doing the things that you love, doing the things that you enjoy, working towards your goals, when you go back to work, it's going to be harder to stay that 8 hours. Despite money being at hand here. I mean, you're talking like the ultimate motivator. The ultimate motivator for workers. I mean, the ultimate motive for work. You rather cut that off and go home early because you're experiencing some discomfort, which is completely fine. I understand that. It is neuroscience. You break down that habit, it's going to be harder. You don't play guitar for a week, it's going to be harder to get back. It's to get back in that groove, the flow. But once you're in the flow, it's a beautiful place. It's a place beyond space. It's a place beyond space and time. And it's a place that you want to live.